to order at 7:04 p.m. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Guevara. Student trustee Shaw. Trustee Walker.
Here.
Trustee Gallegos.
Here.
Trustee Tejada.
Here.
Vice President Salavidi.
Here.
President Lee.
Here. Okay. Item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 4A, board meeting minutes, December 20th, 2022. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? If not, motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sure. Second.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 5A, board report. We'll start with the student trustees. Mr. Guevara, would you like to do your board report out?
Want me to stand up?
No, you can just stay seated.
Hello, everyone. This is one of my first board meetings, so it's very special to me. My name is Keith Guevara. I'm a current junior at Westmore. I also serve as the junior class president, and I'm one of the co-presidents of the Student Advisory Council, along with Alana Huser. She goes to Terra Nova. So at Westmore, I really value my time at Westmore. We do a lot of events that involve inclusivity, and I'm really proud to represent as a round. Some of the events that we currently are working on are Winter Ball, as we also do a lot of quad games, a lot of dances, just a lot of fun activities. And as a student government member, I do participate in leadership, so that's something that I really have a passion towards. And along with Nadia, yeah.
Anything else? Okay, great. Ms. Shaw?
Hello, I'm Nadia. I'm a student at Jefferson, a senior. And currently we are working on our upcoming rally, which is scheduled for the first week of February. It's a team rally, so seniors are partnered with sophomores and freshmen are partnered with juniors. So it's a good time for collaboration to happen between the different classes. We're also working on a winter ball. It's called the Snowball, which is a really good name. It's happening on the same day as Westmore's, which is a little bit unfortunate that Westmore students who want to, or Jefferson students who want to attend like both dances can't really do that. But we hope to have a good turnout for that, and sales will be starting soon. Recently, we also had an alumni day, which was the last week of the fall semester. We had a pretty good turnout of Jefferson alumni who came to talk about their experience at high school and how the classes they took and the kind of the extracurriculars they were a part of helped them throughout college, and also to thank their teachers for getting them to where they were today. It was a really good experience to see what they had to say, and the teachers too, for like the feedback they had. And yep, I think that's it for Jefferson.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Walker?
I don't have anything to report at this time.
Okay. Mr. Gallegos?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Ms. Tejada?
So I just want to welcome everyone back from winter recess, and so I was one of the people that COVID over winter break. So I had dodged it for a long time, but I guess but at least I feel like all the knowledge that we learned serving on this board and being in this district helped me. I pretty much knew what to do. And I didn't get that sick, so that was great. And my daughter was part of the alumni who was at Jefferson. She goes to NYU now. And so it's really nice to have her home, and I'm starting to feel sad because in 2 weeks she'll be back in New York. I was able to go to the Student Advisory Council meeting last night, which was really great. I always look forward to it. I'm so impressed with them. Every year we have a great group of students, but this group, I think they've hit their stride because they spent 2 years in isolation, and now they're they are back, and I can't wait to see what else they are going to be doing for the rest of the year. And that, I'm done.
Ms. Aldean?
Thank you. Hopefully everyone is staying dry and safe with all the weather. And just really thinking about those that are not housed, because it's been a lot. And then it's a new year, so just always, you think about resolutions, and for my board life, resolving to stay ever diligent, because I feel really blessed to be in JUHSD, and especially where we are right now, post-COVID, and looking at what's happening with other districts and how other districts are kind of losing their footing. Because we went through a lot as educators and as school districts. It was a whole bunch of survival, and now that we're on the other side, some people aren't making it past that other side. Some districts. And so it just reminds me to not rest, even though we're doing well, to constantly remain diligent in terms of communication, transparency, vulnerability, and constantly reminding myself to ensure that I, while I am, stay passionate, but also ensure that I'm creating a space that people feel safe to share and communicate. And really always working, and I'm really proud of this district, always working to be better, ensuring that all of our students feel safe on our campuses, regardless of who they are and where they come from, ensuring that this is a place where people want to work, and ensuring that we constantly strive to fight for our staff and our faculty. So Happy New Year to everyone, and I'm excited to continue the work.
Great. Yeah, I hope everybody had a restful break over the past couple of weeks and ready to start off the second half of the school year strong. It's hard to believe we're halfway through the school year already, because we know how fast these next 5 months will go, and before you know it, we're gonna be talking about graduation assignments for the 5 of us up here. That said, I'm excited about what we've got coming up this year. A lot of the good work we have been doing and continue, and we'll build on it, and I'm looking forward to hearing the different reports tonight. And I see the leak right here, which once again proves the need for the new district office and adult education building. Just simple. I like seeing that reminder of why the work we do is so important and why we've got to take care of the other items on the agenda later on. So we'll move.
This way.
All right, Ms. Presta.
Thank you. Yes, we did contemplate moving the meeting, and we were like, well, it's a reminder of why we're moving.
That's right.
Thank you. I don't have a big report. I just want to thank everybody for their work over winter break. There were lots of storms, so many of us were sitting on county calls, learning about emergency responses, and Director Peppers and his maintenance staff were and still are at all of our campuses, making sure that the school sites are safe. We haven't had any big problems. There are little bits of little landslide at Oceana, but it's just near the field, and the fields at Terra Nova, the softball, baseball field at Terra Nova is very, very wet. So we've got lots of drips, things like that, but, we're making it through, and I'm really grateful to the staff, for helping us with that. Other than that, it was I think what I'm hearing from most people is that we had a really restful winter break, and I'm really glad about that. Our schedule was imperfect. We are realizing that we maybe should have gotten out a day or two before we did, but I'm also hearing that people really appreciated kind of coming back on the 9th and having that time after the new year for some extra rest. So hoping that everybody had a restful time, and I too am really looking forward to the second half of the year. That's it.
Great. Okay. AFT 1481 report, Ms. Chasey.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I just want to talk a little bit about CFT, which is our parent union. The next month, 3 months. So this month, we're going to have some committees this weekend coming up and executive committees, and that's a political kind of area where we try to come up with ideas to help the legislature understand what it is we do in our district and what they can do to help us. It's not always just money. Sometimes they make up laws that help us, and sometimes they hinder us. So we try to guide them because there are really not very many educators in the legislature. February, there's a leadership conference. And in March is the CFT convention. So every other year, it's the CFT convention, and then the opposite year is AFT, which is the national union. A lot of my work is with Dana and Doreen, and so we have 2 committees going on right now, working on the evaluation process and trying to make sure we have all the types of evaluations we need. Many of those evaluations are old or not appropriate anymore, and this is for our staff. And also a committee for the PAR process. So that's what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a COVID response update tonight, Ms. Presta?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Well, actually, we do. It's Austin Hazel. Thank you.
So I do have 2 things to share out. So the first was, excuse me, going back last year, the day after vacation, we had 29 reported COVID cases. This year, coming back from vacation, we had 11. So in us taking that extra week, we did see a decline in that. So I think that was definitely a positive in us going that extra week. Also, students and staff will take their second free COVID test or at-home test tomorrow. So
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 6, consent. Is there a motion to approve consent? So moved. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 7, any public comment this evening?
There are no blue cards.
Okay, great. So we'll go on to item 8A1, Board Liaison Assignments 22-23. Ms. Presta.
Thank you. So we brought this back after last meeting because I realized that there were some committees liaison assignments that we didn't have listed. So the 3 that were not listed are the Student Advisory Council. There are 2 trustees that attend those meetings. The Jefferson Council PTA, we had 2 people assigned. It was Rosie Tejada and Carla Garrett before, so I didn't put Carla's name on here. And then the Facilities Subcommittee, which is Andy and Kalima. And then we also have the Educational Housing Corporation, which has been Rosie Tejada and Andy Lee. And I'm not sure if we want to keep those assignments moving forward or if we want to change them. So we kind of put them here
Okay.
in red.
All right. So let's go to the Student Advisory Council. Rosie, Talima, do you want to continue to do that?
Yes. But I would give the opportunity to either of our new board members, and I think, we should keep one of us on there, and if we want to usher in a new board member, so they can learn and get to know the students, if they're interested. Otherwise, I'd stay on it.
No pressure.
I'll do it.
Okay, I can step down.
Okay. Okay.
But I will, it's not like I'm going away.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be on the board, still be involved with you guys.
All right. Jefferson Council PTA, who wants to either continue doing it or be added to or replaced completely?
They haven't been meeting.
Okay.
There's an issue with their leadership right now, but I have ties to Jefferson Council, so I'd like to.
You'd like to stay on, okay. Anybody else want to be the second person on it? Okay. Sure. Cool. All right. Facilities Subcommittee.
You should
We
both
should
go.
stay.
Just kidding.
We're gonna stay.
There's still a lot going on. Then we'll jump over to the EHC.
I had shared that I'd like to step down from this.
Okay.
And my suggestion is that with Ms. Salahuddin, she has an ever-evolving role in the community attached to educational housing, and people are starting to turn to us for how to do things, and then also, but we're moving, we're evolving. So I just think if you're interested, I just think that you would, I think you would be a better fit for me at this time.
Yeah, that's fine. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there's still stuff conversations that I still would like to be involved in. It's, I think I made the miscalculation when we first did this. I was like, 7:05 is done and moving on to, and now I'm seeing like, no, there's still a lot of things that we need to do.
There's a lot going
Yeah.
on. I think we're learning how much continues to evolve around it now that it's been open, and new things that we just need to be able to think through. So, great, thank you, and I'm happy to stay on the EHC as well.
And then the last thing that's not on here, but we can bring it up at another time is, and I wouldn't mind doing it to start if another board member would join me, but I feel like we should definitely have board members on the audit committee with Tina. Just because it's a really good experience. I did it here a long time ago, but I used to do it a lot in the PSD, which is how I learned about school budgets. Because when you go through it one time, it's heavy duty, but you do learn a lot about the school district, how the budget works, how everything kind of fits together. And we approve the audit, so it's like how to approve the audit, so. We can bring it back later when we get closer to that time, Tina, but.
Or we can at least put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And assign, we'll put it on for the next meeting to assign who's on that committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Easy. All right, item 8B1, the Westmore SIPSA updates. Ms. Batra, did you want to introduce the team?
President Lee, good evening, members of the board. Tonight, I would like to introduce Principal Ahrens, who will highlight the good things that's happening at Westmore High School. Mr. Ahrens.
I want to thank the board. Is my mic on here?
Yeah.
I want to thank the board for the opportunity to be here tonight and be able to celebrate Westmore. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to allow me to serve. Also, I want to be able to introduce my team who has VPs. They have a tremendous work ethic and they're student-first decision makers. So Dr. He, Victor Sal, Tina Yee. So the highlights for Westmore. We've got our slides up there. I'm going to turn a little bit here. So theme going into this year for Westmore High School is every student, every classroom, every day. And as we work with our teachers and our certified and classified staff, we want to make sure our teachers go beyond just knowing the student's name and be able to connect with the students and learning what their individual needs are. Okay, because all the students are different. They're coming from different backgrounds. Westmore has a tremendous diversity of staff and students, but we have to make connections with our students. Who's got the slide?
You can
right
advance, actually.
here? Arrow
Yeah,
here.
you can use the arrows.
Okay. Right there. So school highlights. Again, I want to thank the board, Tony. We came into this year with brand new facilities. We've got a brand new theater. Our quad was updated. Our science labs are looking great. The grounds are looking great. brand-new administration building, brand-new counseling offices. So when you have a facility in a high school that looks really, really nice, there's a tremendous amount of community pride. So we want our students and our families to feel that great sense of pride every day that they walk through our buildings. So very proud about the new facilities and upgrades there. As you heard from our student leadership, we have some great student leadership opportunities, starting with our student government classes. We've had student leadership training from other high schools coming over to Westmore to be trained on what it means to be serving others in our leadership. So Westmore goes beyond just the academic. We want to develop the whole child. What does it mean to serve others? And we learn that there. The Green Hats, who have been around for about 30 plus years, they help out just like the student government, open house, back to school night. So this is my fourth school, and I've never seen any other high school that's got some great leadership programs for our kids. Again, about serving others, helping out in the hallways, guiding our parents on back to school night to classrooms, serving out in the communities. And then the other thing that really attracted me to Westmore is we have over 28 clubs. So from Latin dance to Future Business Leaders of America. The Latin dance team I did not join, but the ping pong team I did. So I really enjoyed doing that. So matching the diversity of our students matches with the diversity of our clubs and the opportunities to be part of something and an opportunity to lead again. This year, there's been a tremendous focus on our professional learning communities. We have collab days with our staff every Wednesday. And this year, we're getting into an area that's called Blue Sheets, where we want to be able to have our units broken down by learning objectives and not having them out in front of our teachers, but for the first time, putting them out in front of our students. So our students know exactly where they're at in their units. They know exactly where their gaps are at. And I will talk about that a little bit more. Some other school highlights. Whoops, I'm going to back up one. I missed one, thanks to Victor Zal this year. The Westmore After School Tutoring attendance. You can see the 2021 line, the red line there. And this is tutoring that occurs after school by our staff. So you can see for the month of December last year how low it was. And of course, it was a COVID year. But you can see right around 12-13, 12-15, right before the exams. We had over 100 students being tutored after school in our staff tutors, and we have peer tutoring, and we have peer mediation as well. So doing a really good job there. Go the other way. School highlights, English Language Arts, ELA, CASC exam this last year, 21-22, 62% of JUHSD students met or exceeded state standards. Westmore overall was 69% of our students met or exceeded state standards. So it was up 7% from pre-COVID year. I put in there the 95 participation rate. We had the highest in our high school district as far as the participation. And if you think about the COVID year that we had last year, getting 94% of our students tested out is pretty good. The other highlights, 75% of our African-American students at or above state standards, 77% Chinese students at or above state standards, 72% of our Filipino students at or above state standards there. So surprisingly did really well there. Math CASC exam, 31% of JUHSD students met or exceeded state standards. Westmore overall was 38% of our students met or exceeded. 67% of our Asian and Indian students at or above state standards. 60% of our Chinese students at or above state standards there. Okay, I was very, very surprised when we got our scores back, especially during such a tough year where a lot of students and staff missed school. So where are the needs at Westmore? So right now we're looking at our subgroups. How are all our kids doing? Because just like I said in our first slide, it's about all our students. So as we look at our subgroups, Hispanic, Latino students, 50% at or above state standards in ELA. That's pretty good, but the Westmore average is at 69%. So you can see a 19% gap there. So we want to be able to bring that group up. Hispanic Latino, 15.3%, met or exceeded in math. School average was 31.15. And then what really shocked me here was the white students was only at 12.5% at or above in state standards in math. 16 students were tested that particular year. School average, again, was 31.15. So as we identify some of our needs with our Hispanic and Latino and our white students, we want to move to more visual teaching and engaging our students. So example, like in Math 1, you want to just check for understanding. What that means is you can't just do a thumbs up in math. You can't just have them do homework, but our thinking is this: small whiteboards where students scaffold out their math problems, and then each kid has an individual board that we can visually check. And I think that's one of the weaknesses in all schools, is that we do an activity in class and we don't check for understanding that kids have that knowledge before we move on. The other area that we're looking at right now is flex time discussion. I've already met with the instructional coaches. I've met with our leadership team that's composed of our department chairs, and we're having conversations about flex time. Is there a section of our day that we're looking at that we could provide time for students to make up their exams or get together with their teachers if they're missing some foundational skills? We've had students from Terra Nova, from Jefferson, that's come over to present to our leadership team about flex. The next step for us is I'm going to send a team over to Terra Nova to be able to witness their flex time. And then after that, my team's going to help me do a survey with our staff and our students, because I know our students are for it. Okay? Plan improvement goals, actions, and strategies going forward. I've been at Westmore a year and a half. I sat with the leadership team last spring. I wanted to come into this year with a specific goal for Westmore High School and initiatives based on our WASP visit in 2020 and some of our weaknesses, and obviously looking at some of our subgroups. So Westmore goals: building community and relationships. Okay, that's the foundation to our school. Building community relationships are foundation, which everything we do is built. We strive to communicate a community of welcome, hospitality, and engagement, and bring together everyone in the community. And you can see how that aligns with our district and our LCAP goals. And then we also brought in this year, our 4 pillars are built on our universal expectations within our community: act with integrity and treat everyone with respect, collaborate using our collective intelligence, plan with critical thinking and thoroughness, serve others with an open heart and open mind. Serve others with an open heart and an open mind. So my first year at Westmore was tough. I sat in leadership meetings where staff members got into some arguments during those meetings. I reminded them again of our pillars and our norms and corrected the behavior, and we were able to move on. But those 4 pillars are non-negotiable when we're dealing with students and we're dealing with staff. Westmore initiatives, our instructional focus for this year: we will develop, implement rigorous tasks, facilitate academic discourse, sustain a culture of achievement in 2022 and 23 with a focus on 3 initiatives going forward. I talked about this a little bit earlier today. Clear student objectives, our blue sheets. Students who understand where they're going have a greater connection to the curriculum and succeed at a higher level in their classes. Students and teachers can quickly identify class and student learning gaps and focus on specific objectives. From 2020, from the WASP visit, it talked to us a little bit about student engagement, that teachers were standing up in front of the classrooms, doing too much direct instruction. So we're really going to be focused this year and next year before WASP in 2024 on student engagement learning. Okay, teachers, instructional coaches will support each other in efforts to promote high levels of student engagement through 4 district initiatives: universal design of learning, constructive meeting, grading for equity, development of ethics studies and courses, right? So as we get in to meet with our teachers, we're not looking at them, we're looking at what the students are doing. We want them talking in classes, turning to their elder partner and discussing things in class and being engaged, not teachers standing up in front of students. Third initiative going forward is for formative assessments. Teachers will develop, implement, analyze formative assessments data. Meaningful information can help guide instruction improvements during this learning development of appropriate student interventions. So we learned from WAS in 2020 that we weren't checking for understanding enough. A teacher would do an activity, move on, and maybe lose 5 or 6 kids in that class before going on to the next activity. So we want our teachers to slow down, do a check for understanding before they move forward. So that was our goals, our 3 initiatives going into this year. As far as our big ticket items, budget expenditures, on our SIPSA, after-school peer tutoring, you can see the money amount there at $50,000. Site collaboration funds at 9, college career at 9, SAT, SST support at 6, wellness, which is huge if kids are not feeling well. And that's part of that foundation that we have to have levels of support for them. At Promise Population at 6, Ethic Studies at 13, Technology Training at 15. Kind of where we're spending our funds. Interventions, what we're also working on this year, it's what's called MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of support. So academics, you can see there's 3 levels there. I'm gonna talk about tier 1. So for me, what's really, really important is getting improvements into our individual classrooms. And tier 1 is about the classroom. What are the level of supports that kids are getting in those rooms, classroom-based supports? Encouraging parent-guardian contact by teachers, after-school tutoring, online tutoring. The teachers are doing a great job on Google Classroom where they have assignments for students. I was talking to Tina about the podcast that they have on there. If a kid misses a lesson, it's on there. And then we move up to tier 2, and you can see those supports in smaller groups. And then tier 3 would be one-on-one peer tutoring as far as that stuff's concerned. Multi-tiered system supports social and emotional learning, right? So tier 1, again, it's vital to my team that we create a safe and positive learning environment. I want our students to think, and I know, that Westmore is the best place to be as they walk through those screen doors, that they're safe and they're gonna be encouraged to learn, okay? And just like our student rep talked about, the lunchtime activities, I think I had a pie in the face right before the break, trying to fundraise money. Then we had the staff student basketball game. I think we beat you guys by 30, but I'm not gonna brag about it. Okay? The other things that were vital, the rape trauma services came in last year and this year, and talking to our students about healthy relationships. We don't talk about that enough. When you go on a date, what does that mean to be respectful and have those type of relationships going forward? And then you can see tier 2 support. We got the Future Grads program. I want to thank Tony for that. They have their own classroom set up. They're giving our students an opportunity to see what college looks like when the majority of their family has never gone. As far as behavior, multi-tier system, my last slide here. We talk about tier 1 again, whole school relationships. We met the first week. We were able to meet in person, face-to-face, beautiful theater. Thank you guys for that again. We covered clear school-wide expectations through our town hall meetings with our students. Dr. He helped create that discipline matrix for our teachers. What do you take care of in classroom management, and what does the administration take care of? So there's a clear lines there. But we wanted our seniors to be the leaders of our school and be able to role model out to our students that. Tier 2, you can see on there, peer mediation, restorative conversations. And then tier 3 gets up to more intensive support, individual student conferences with parents as far as that. So again, we're looking to educate the whole child and not just the academic child. And I think Westmore's doing a great job of that, preparing the kids beyond high school and be able to teach them that leadership skills. And you can see what a big fan the team is of that level of respect going forward as well.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
All right, any questions, comments from the board, including student trustees?
I have a few. So first of all, thank you for the presentation and thank you all for your work for this year. I'm very appreciative. So I think the first question I have is just a clarification and another thing. So the at promise, I know that's a new term for like vulnerable, at risk. So the tech support, what, can you expand on what that is?
Yes, so we have a few teachers that are beyond their classroom that are getting stipends to be able to support some other teachers in tech, right? So tech for me is not my biggest strength, but for Sterling it is. So he's constantly over in my office, he's supporting me. So we have teachers, about 3 of them on our campus, that beyond their teaching, they get stipends to support the other teachers with that tech.
Okay, is it connected to the population that is vulnerable? Is this student tech support or is it just for teachers?
Right now, it's just for our staff.
Okay,
Yeah, for now. Yes, ma'am.
To add,
Yeah.
we also have tech supported to our students as well. If they need a Chromebook.
Chromebook 101.
We
Yeah.
have our textbook clerk offer additional support to that as well.
okay. Okay. And then, so I'm really pleased to see all the MTSS, because I know that for a few years, just going back a couple of years, one of the issues out of Westmore was staff complaint about discipline. And I know we changed the discipline, the way we discipline at Westmore and schools around the district to catch up with modern times, but there was the gap, right? So I'm just wanting to know, like, how are you seeing these manifest themselves now? Have you seen, because I know there's an increase everywhere, we're all got thrown back together. It's tense sometimes. So, what have you seen on the school sites, and have you seen this playing a part in helping with the environment and culture?
Yeah, and I think as our teachers get better at knowing their students, so you remember the teachers that you had in high school, middle school, elementary, it starts with relationships, right? So when you have a strong connection with students in your class, and we have teachers that we still need to work on that with, that we have conversations with. But once there's a feeling of trust, and the teachers are valuing our students, we're working on that, there's actually going to be less discipline problems because that student's going to want to work for that teacher and work harder in that class. And then the expectations coming from the administration. I talked about the town hall meeting, and let me back up on that. We met with every grade level in the new gorgeous theater. So proud of that theater, and you guys have been in it. I think it's one of the best theaters in the entire state. I really do. I take tours in class of 1972 down there. And I'm like the tour guide now, right? So that's all I'm doing is doing tours. Town hall meeting was about setting expectations with our students. I knew from the staff coming into Westmore last year, one of the top complaints was the administration did not support them in their classrooms with discipline-wise. Now, for me, my dad was a Marine and I went through military school, right? So I kind of consider myself the weatherman. And I got to determine what's the right temperature at Westmore for learning to take place. So if we need, they call us, we take a student out of class. If we're able to do restorative practice and put the student back, we will. If not, we have in-school suspension as well. But I got to be honest with you, the suspensions were up because, again, I got to get the weather right. The other 28 students have a right to learn in that room. So if Sammy's messing up that right to learn, he's going to hear about it from my team. The parents are going to be called, and we're going to adjust the behavior and then try to get him right back in. But students cannot learn in an unorganized, undisciplined class. So my administration team learned that right off the bat. We got to support our teachers. So I'm hoping that we moved up to the high 90s on that from our staff, that we're very supportive of them as well.
And then the discipline matrix, has that started this year, or is that still in process?
It started last year,
year?
and we have updated it.
Okay.
Like, you guys would be surprised. So a teacher would throw a student out because he didn't bring a pencil to class. Is that Mr. Aaron's issue, or is that yours, right? Provide an extra pencil, use some common sense. Here are the issues that you deal with in class. You can, so we have expectations. They have to do 3 things first before they send a student to us, right? So they got to have a one-on-one conversation with that student. They got to have some type of restorative practice in place. They got to make a phone call home to that parent. So we're asking them to do 3 things before they meet with us, and not just throw Bobby out of class. He's got a right to be there and a right to learn, right? And then here are the items that you take care of. Then here are the items that my administration team will take care of. So I think the discipline matrix that the administration team created has helped create a more focused about who's doing what and what's expected of our teachers as well.
And how has that been received by the staff and the teachers? Have you felt like it's been received well and it's being used? Like, what was the training process to get them to normalize it?
Yeah, you know, since I've been there a year and a half, and they're getting to know my team, they're getting a sense from us about what's acceptable, right? And again, Mr. Harris is always going to go back to relationships. You need to have a relationship with Tom, right? And then 9 times out of 10, he won't be goofing off on your class. You know, so we encourage our teachers to do one of the things that I did pre-essays when students come into class. Write me 3 paragraphs, tell me about yourself and tell me about your family. And we have some work to do on that, and that's why you can see our number 1 goal is building community. Get to know the students, make connections with your students, right? And I always look there first. And then again, you saw my pillars. If you're being disrespectful to our students, you're gonna have a conversation with me, because there's no line there to be crossed. Right? You respect them, they respect you.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. And I'm really happy to see your admin staff here. You're new. You had a challenge ahead of you, and I was really excited when we hired you, very excited. And I really like how you put the emphasis on relationships and building community. And we always talk about the whole child, and I think that JUHSD has been really good in that way. That's our, we always put an emphasis on that, but I'm glad to see that you are really holding yourself accountable and everybody else. And that it's all about the student. What I have a question about blue sheets. What exactly is that? I'm not really clear on what that is.
Right. And if Ms. Baca would have allowed me 13 slides, I would have. Just kidding, Ms. Baca.
Can't do it.
I love Ms. Baca. You got 15 here,
really not
12
clear
slides in 15 minutes, Aaron.
Well, you know, if Ms. Baca's slides are gorgeous, so.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, so what the concept is this, is that we're really moving away from what the teachers have in front of them to more independent learning, especially at the high school level. So we have our teachers meet on Wednesday during collab days, during our PLC time. And what they do is they get together by content area. So let's just take Math 1. They look at their unit for Math 1, and they create the objectives for that unit. And they lay it out on a piece of paper or 2, and they give that paper to the students. So 1.7 Math 1, here's what you have to know, here's what you have to be able to do. So as the students going through the classes and going through the activities and checking for understanding, they can see where their gaps are at. So we're putting it back on the students, right? Because we want our students to know where they have to go, right? So that when they have the whole thing in front of them, they're able to make that connection. Well, here's where I'm going. Here's what I have to learn. Here's what I'm struggling with. Now, here's what I could go to tutoring for and be able to get some extra help with. Or the teacher can look at a trend, hey, we're all struggling with 1.7, maybe I gotta reteach it, right? So it's a concept of putting those learning objectives, what we want our students to know and be able to do, out in front of the students. The teachers always had them out in front of them. But it doesn't help me to teach the teachers, we want to teach our kids, right? That's really gonna help them as well. So by having them out there, and from what we've heard, the other high schools have asked for them. And then let's say we get a first-year teacher in next year. Well, the units in Math 1, learning objectives have already done the previous year. Here's what's gonna help you, we've already got it done. So it's like an expansion of the lesson plan and putting those objectives in front. And learning objectives is just simply what we want our students to know and be able to do.
But, and then the teachers are actually checking the work.
Correct. And one of the biggest problems in all schools is we do an activity in the classroom, we move on, we don't check for understanding. So here's where the student engagement, our second piece comes in. Turn to your elbow partner and just talk about that last concept. We want to get our teachers away from standing up in front of kids. Let the kids do the work and let them talk in class, let them communicate more. I was very happy when I first came into Westmore because I could tell by walking in rooms when there's 4 tables put together, that means it's set up for student talk and students to be able to collaborate together. We just want to expand on that.
Especially, I would imagine that's especially valuable coming out of the years of isolation.
Yes.
My daughter was learning from home. She was taking AP Calc. And, I mean, just lying down in bed. I mean, it was just, I thought, how do you learn? And it was, she'd keep notes, but it was more talking to her friends who had the same class to understand it.
Right, and we learn best from each other. We learn how to get along with each other. We learn how to lead, right? So there's many things that come out of that, yeah.
Well, that would have been great on a slide now. No, I think it's fantastic. Thank you. No, thank you.
Great. Well, if no other questions or comments, great. Thank you so much. Oh, one more? All right, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take the time to second Mr. Aarons and his presentation. It's really important that coming from a student perspective, especially because I spent my 9th grade year over Zoom with literally totally different admin, I can definitely say that Westmore hasn't improved in events and comforting students as much as possible. I realized over the past 3 years that Westmore strives to teach education, not just simply solving for X and Y, but also how to become successful after high school and to learn how to mature and become a good person. There are more opportunities now that we are starting to get back to normal, and the staff seem very passionate about having a one-to-one relationship with their students. As the days go on, I feel really optimistic about Westmore, and I'm excited for a better day. I have high hopes for Westmore, and I also have participated in the student presentation regarding flex time. So there are a lot of exciting things to look forward to, such as graduation and prom, and all of the fun events that Westmore holds. I also wanted to add how much more helpful it is to be surrounded by such like a new and clean environment. It kind of just like reminds me to take care of my community and to serve as the student leader I am. And I also wanted to shout out Mr. Aarons, Dr. He, Mr. Zhao, and Ms. Yi for literally being such a light to Westmore. Westmore would not be the same without you. Like literally, you guys put so much love and joy to everything you guys do, and you guys mean so much.
That's really nice.
Thank you so much.
That's the perfect way to end this presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Aarons.
I mean, I will say too, really quick, that just highlighting how much we appreciate all of you here, and that, you know, turnover is a huge problem. And we're here to support you in any way that we can, because we really value your leadership. So please let us know, you know, we're all very open. If there's anything that we can do or we can do better, let us know, because, you know, that's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Next item is 8C1, Board Policy Update BP 4153, Employee Security. Ms. Bazuino.
Oh, good evening, President Lee, members of the board. So CSBA recommends that these changes to BP 4158. The updates include allowing the district to seek temporary restraining order and injunction on behalf of an employee against any other individual who has subjected the employee to unlawful violence or a credible threat of violence in the workplace. And it also provides, we can also provide reasonable accommodations upon a request to an employee who may be a victim of domestic violence.
Comments or questions related to this policy? It's just a discussion item. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, BP 1312.3 Uniform Complaint Procedure. Ms. Lujan?
Good evening, everyone. This policy was updated and recommended to be updated by CSBA because Education Code 8235.5 was changed to 8212, as well as several other education codes. They were renumerated. In addition, the policy reflects that Title IX legislation changed, so there's a completely different complaint process for Title IX.
Comments or questions, this item? Okay. Then we'll go on to item D, 8D1, policy update BP 3110, transfer of funds. Ms. Van Rapport, boy, you all are getting a share of this tonight.
Good evening, President Lee, members of the board. It's really nice to see everyone. Happy New Year. My first item tonight is this proposed update of Board Policy 3110, the transfer of funds. As the previous examples, this update is recommended by CSBA. There's no substance changed in this policy, only a simplification of the language used about how and when funds can be transferred. And then I don't think we've talked about how the process would work publicly, but we would recommend that if you don't have any comments or questions, we recommend that these revised policies will just be brought back on consent for approval at the next meeting.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
No comments or questions.
Great. Okay. Then we'll go on to item 8D2, Western Fire Chiefs Association Emergency Cell Service Discussion. Ms. Van Rapport, you're up again.
Thank you, President Lee. It has been brought to our attention by the Western Fire Chiefs Association that in the event of an emergency, the cell service in the neighborhood around Oceana High School is insufficient to serve the needs of the first responders. So a member of this association, Mr. Barry Hutchings, is here tonight to provide you with some additional information and to propose that we allow the construction of a cell tower on the hillside at Oceana. And I will let Mr. Hutchings give you his presentation.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for giving us a chance to, or carving out some time for us tonight to talk about public safety communications. One of the things that I just wanted to give you some background first, and I have a work associate with me tonight, Scott Lovelace. He wasn't here the first time I was here. I recognize a number of faces from the first time that I was here. Scott is from Public Safety Towers Company. He is here in case you guys trip me up with a telecom question, because I'm a fire service person. I'm not a telecom expert, but Scott is. So if there's a question, he'll have the answer that I don't have. But what I wanted to kind of just talk about before we get into that site, specifically out at the high school, was how communications work these days in the fire, police, and EMS fields. When I first started in the fire service, all of our communications were with a radio, a land mobile radio. It was how much you could say and hear on that radio on the way to the call. That's it, and it's really limited. So imagine the radio system typically is for the whole county, and there's other emergencies going on. You're not the only person going to that call. There's other things going on. So airtime is really limited. In fact, we would teach people to talk in as few words as possible. You don't ever say thank you or you're welcome on the land mobile radio. You just say what you need to say. But what's happening now is there's so much more data available to first responders than ever before. On the way to the call now, everybody in an engine, police car, or ambulance is going to have a mobile data computer, laptop, tablet, something, sitting there in the officer's seat. And he or she is reading information on the way to this call. And it's as fast as the dispatcher can type. That's how much you're going to get. And so there's a lot of data that is available, but personnel can't get it if we don't have coverage in that area or on the way to the call, you know. And I've got a coverage map that I'll show you here in a little bit that'll kind of show that, what I'm talking about there. But what's happening is the next gen 911 software that's going to be coming in the next few years, we're going to have so much, we're going to be able to send video from on scene to the responders coming to a fire. Let's say there was a fire here at the school, at this building, and somebody dials 911, and there's always people out with video, right? Well, in the not too distant future, they'll be able to send that video to the 911 center, and then the 911 center is going to send that to the fire truck going to the call. And they'll have a video and know where the fire is and how big it is before they ever get there, and be able to call for more resources, be able to call for ambulances if they think they need them. Whereas right now, it's kind of, you got to wait till you get there, because you don't have, you're relying on people describing it, and then the dispatcher giving you that information on the MDC or passing it on to you on the radio. So it's going to be giving those guys a lot more information to make better decisions even before they arrive on scene. Typically, you're making quick, really important choices with 30 to 40% of the information you really need. And with what's coming in the future, you're going to have so much more information available. And, you know, what we're trying to do is make it available by having signal. So the Western Fire Chiefs have partnered with Public Safety Towers Company, which is where Scott's from, and partnered with AT&T and FirstNet. FirstNet being the National Public Safety Broadband Network that was created by the 9/11 Commission that came out of that event. As probably most of you know, communications totally broke down at that event, and they at times had no communications on that scene. And I've experienced that. So you have the best way to I guess demonstrate it would be, say you have a wreck on I-5. Traffic starts to back up. There's going to be one cell tower that probably is covering that corridor wherever that wreck is happening. It doesn't take long before everybody's on their phone calling home or wherever and saying, hey, I'm going to be late, there's a wreck. So on the way to the call, it doesn't take long for my broadband to be turned off because my call's being dropped. I have no service because everybody is hitting that tower. And it's the same thing with any big event. A fire moves through, it's the same thing's going to happen. You have a fire at a school during school hours, I guarantee you, unless they have FirstNet, unless there's a FirstNet tower near that vicinity, the guys are not going to have service on the way to the call. It's just going to be, that tower will be buried. What FirstNet does is it prioritizes fire, police, EMS, schools, Department of Transportation. It prioritizes those users so that their calls will not get dropped. It also provides a lot more bandwidth than currently exists out there. So the typical AT&T tower will have their bandwidth available, plus band 14, which is pretty much the same amount that's available for public safety, but the average user gets to use it unless we're using it. So if there's bandwidth available that's not being used by police, fire, EMS, schools, Department of Transportation, everybody gets to use it. So it's created a lot more bandwidth and made it available for us to use. Now we just have to get it out there. so that it's usable. And so what we've done is we've identified an area around Oceana High School that it's just a dead spot where we just don't have good coverage at the school, and I think the middle school right across the highway is in the same situation. Of course, all the surrounding businesses it's just a difficult area for service there. And we've looked at a lot of sites to try and fix that coverage issue. And we've come to the conclusion that, and what you're going to look at, and I'm going to just kind of point out one site here. This tower that I put in right there, the radio frequency engineers at AT&T, they love that site. That site is going to fix the coverage issues in that pocket, and I'll show you the coverage map here in a second. It's elevated a little bit up. The Google Earth doesn't do the justice of driving out there and seeing just how elevated that bank there is. But the belief is that's going to fix a lot of coverage issues in that entire area. And if you ever have an event, you probably have experienced calls being dropped. But just imagine trying to get a hold of somebody at that scene with information that you cannot broadcast over the land mobile radio because it's protected healthcare information or it's private information about station staffing or who knows what it might be, but I can't talk to them on the radio. I've got to get them on the phone, and you can't get them. I mean, I've had it happen, and it's just we have to fix that, and that's what the Western Fire Chiefs are trying to do, is fix that problem. So that's kind of our proposal for locating the tower. Now, the other thing is that I just want to say is we want to be your partner in this. We want to work with you to determine first if there's interest from you all to move forward, and if we move forward, how do we do that? That is the most benefit for you and for public safety comms. We want to work with you and be your partner, not just build a tower and leave.
I just want to let you know the rest of the information that you provided, if you scroll down, you'll see.
Yep. So, okay, I'm using.
The mouse might work too.
There we go. So here's the coverage map, the way it exists today. And what you see there is in yellow, or green is what we're looking for. That gives you pretty much guaranteed coverage. Now this is that whole pocket that we just looked at. So I don't see any green on there at all, and I see a whole bunch of purple, which is really bad coverage. And the yellow is a little bit of coverage if you're outside. And actually, it's probably better than a little bit. If you're outside in general, if it's yellow, you probably got some signal. But that's the way it looks today. This is the way it'll look if we build a tower out there. All of that turns green, and almost all the rest of it turns yellow, where the coverage issue just gets fixed with one tower in that area. And the other thing that we do, and the Public Safety Towers Company encourages, is we want everybody to be on that tower, not just FirstNet and AT&T, but if Verizon and T-Mobile need something out there, we want them to be on there with us. Because as far as the Western Fire Chiefs are concerned, not only do the public safety folks need to be able to talk and get data, but people need to be able to dial 911. 81% of the calls that come into the center come on cellular. So we got to have service for everybody, not just the first responders. But this is something that the board had asked for when I was here before, is that coverage map to kind of demonstrate the need, why it was necessary. This just kind of shows in miles what this tower will do and how far it'll reach. The thing about your area is topographically, it's challenging. You know, where I live is the same way. It doesn't take very many hills, and radio frequency does not pass through dirt. It does not pass through buildings very well. It's line of sight technology. And so we've got to prioritize where we think infrastructure has a need. And that's why we're looking at this tower, is there's 2 schools in this little pocket. There's actually, I think there's a 3rd school, just a private school, right, just over the hill there. So there's a lot of infrastructure here that we're trying to make sure has good coverage. Any questions on any of that so far, on kind of what we're looking at doing and why?
On a previous slide,
Back.
looks like there, oh, before that, maybe? Looks like there's 2 locations that are proposed.
Yes.
One's
So,
kind of at the north end of the soccer field and one's
yeah, so,
for the middle of the soccer field.
right, this one doesn't do it, this is really gonna be moved probably further away from that soccer field and up on that bench that's up there. There's a little access road, yeah, that goes up there. And that's further away than it looks. It's kind of up and elevated away. And then this, I think we kind of decided against that site, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that one is actually, we use that area there for storage of dirt and like wood chips and things like that. And we'd rather not lose that storage space up there.
Get trucks in to make
Right.
that loop, and I wouldn't be able to do that with something there.
And listen, we don't want to disrupt any kind of operation that the school has. That's
Yeah,
last thing.
it's the closer, but it's up in elevation.
It's at the same level as the dirt, it's just out and just above the soccer field.
So these were 2 proposed sites, but now we're narrowing it down to 1.
Right, but listen, if it comes down to you guys have a better site, or you have another place that you would like to look at, we're wide open with that. I can tell you that the radio frequency engineers at AT&T, they were just giddy over that site right there. Because we were looking at the middle school across the road, which didn't cover near as well as this site does. And it's in the coastal zone, which is really problematic to build a tower in.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of good things. And this site gets everything away from the school activities. It's kind of out there by itself.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Walker?
Yes, thank you.
How big is that tower?
So right now, we're looking at probably a 65-foot tower, somewhere in that range. The engineers they'll have the final discussion on that. And then we work with DSA, California Department of State Architect. They have jurisdictional authority over all of it. We've met with them extensively on other school sites, and they've determined that these towers, because they're FirstNet, are essential services, and they're going to have jurisdiction over all of them on schools.
So what's it going to look like? Is it going to look like one of those disguised towers that looks like a tree, or?
We would work with you guys on that and figure out what you think would be the best. We can make it a monopine, which is a disguised tree. We can paint it any color to try and blend in to the hillside, or I don't think it gets that, so it's pretty cool. You know, areas where it's really hot, those trees can get discolored. They don't stay nice, you know? But I don't think you have that issue here. I don't think that's, your coast here is kind of like the coast where I live. I live in Southern Oregon, and the coast there is real similar to what you guys, you're a little warmer, but.
And one other question about just the tower in general. How big is the actual footprint, including the tower and whatever else goes with it up there?
About 35 by 35 is what we need to have enough space on the ground to house the equipment for us and 2 or 3 other co-locators if they were to decide to be on there. So 35 by 35 is the minimum size. We have some footprints that are up to 50 by 50, but we've kind of settled in on that 35 by 35.
And then being that it's so close to a school, you'll have some sort of enclosure around it so kids don't go climbing up on it and all that.
Our kids would never do that.
Oh, yeah, so we actually,
Right up
the
there.
fire department where I retired from, they recently had a rescue on a cell tower. A kid had climbed up there, got stuck, and then we had to send guys up to get him down.
Easy climbing up. Ain't so easy climbing.
It happens. It happens.
Thank you.
Mr. Hutchings, I know you've consulted with the Pacifica Fire Department in this process
Yeah.
as well, too. Did you want to?
I spoke to the fire chief. He knows that we're working with you all on this site. I actually spoke to him also and reached out and made sure he knew that if we needed to put an antenna on this thing to help their land mobile radio coverage, or maybe we need a wildland fire detection camera, that we're open to doing anything we can do to help with our partners on that also. I mean, we work for them. Essentially, the Western Fire Chiefs works for your local fire department. So that's one of the first calls that I make, is I touch base with the local fire department before we do anything. Because actually, those guys can point us in the right direction. Well, yeah, check. They'll tell me where to go. The other thing that you guys were asking for, and tell me if I go over time or I get close, so I'll
You're getting close.
okay. So I will buzz, but you guys wanted some information on RF exposure and RF safety. And I talked a little bit about this the last time, but that's a question I had to answer for myself also before I started doing this. I'm a retired paramedic. I do not want to build something that's going to bring harm to somebody. That just wouldn't work for me. So I actually did my own research to make sure that I felt comfortable with what we were doing. But I put together some brief slides that just show you FCC's requirements and kind of shows you where we will be. And it also, we're going to show you kind of what we get exposed to on a regular basis. And just so you kind of see that. Now, there was about a 1.5 year review when the FCC came up with this, and I know they're reviewing it again as we speak to make sure they're staying in line with where they need to be on RF exposure. And obviously, they're going to depend on other agencies. They're not the ones doing these studies, right? I mean, so a good number to remember is that for the average person, that's you and me, the maximum permissible exposure level is 580 microwatts per square centimeter. Now, I know that number doesn't mean much to you, and it didn't mean much to me either. But when we go on down through, you'll kind of see where that number actually fits. But the maximum permissible exposure is really, there's about a 50 times, it's a safety factor built into that. You know, they don't want to take a chance on it. These towers have been around a long time. So it's that maximum limit is way higher than what you're going to get exposed to from a tower even. Our cell phones are going to expose way more RF to us than this tower will. So here's kind of a chart that shows the typical emissions from devices that were around all the time. So that 520, the reason that's not 580 is it's a different bandwidth. So it's 770 megahertz, which is for each bandwidth, there's a little different number on the maximum permissible exposure. That's why it's 520. But you see the cell phone is 250. And we carry those things. In fact, what I would say, I mean, for me, I don't hold the phone like this very often. It's pretty rare that I let it touch my head. I know that it's not it's non-ionizing radiation. It's not supposed to harm me. I understand the science of it, but I'm not holding it there. I'm using the speakerphone, and you guys have probably all seen information that advises you that you can look up on your phone and determine what it produces. It's in your device in the settings. If somebody after the meeting wants that, I'll show you how to do it. But it's measured differently for devices. So I wanted to use these numbers so they're comparable. So what we're looking at is the emissions from a device, not the absorption rate of that device. So there's two different ways it's measured. But apples to apples here, you're going to see that this right here is the max signal if you're up next to where the antenna is broadcasting the waveform out. This is the number if you're down at the bottom of it. So if you're standing at the bottom of the tower, because the waveform's going out like this, it's not pointing down. A little bit is, and I'll show you that here in a second. But if you're standing at the bottom of the tower, you're not going to get hit with much RF. You're going to get exposed to a lot more at your house with your phone, your Wi-Fi, your microwave. I mean, you see the things up there that are hitting us all the time. This is kind of how the wave goes out from the antennas. So you can see most of it is going straight out. And then very little is pointed down at the ground. And then if you're in a building, you're sheltered even more because it dissipates really quickly, which is a problem we have in hospitals and, big buildings. We walk in, you got nothing. So we're actually working on equipment changes to add FirstNet bandwidth to all Wi-Fi routers so that when we walk into a building, our phones actually pick up that FirstNet router and we've got service when we walk in. We're working on doing that as we speak so that you'll have coverage at the hospital. I've missed calls because I was in the hospital dropping off a patient and I didn't hear the call because I got no signal. But that's a really quick, that's as quick as it gets for RF exposure education. So I'm sorry for that, but I wanted you to.
That's
I had to do to make myself comfortable, and I spent a lot of time on it.
Thank you. That slide that shows the comparison with household items is actually the most helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Yes, Ms.
I have
Tejada.
questions. So that little picture of the tower on the comparison slide.
Oh, the
is
previous?
that- Is that what it's going to look like?
No. Your tower's gonna we're gonna build it to make it look like you want it to look. If you want it to be
Big puffed marshmallow man?
right, within reason, right? Because we can't afford to, make it look like a clock tower. That would be expensive.
Okay.
And we
Oh,
can't.
I see.
But we can build a monopine and make it look like a pine tree. We can put up a monopole and paint it the same color as the hillside. We want it to blend in. We don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb either. So any more questions? I know.
I have, so I guess the questions are next steps, like where do we go from here?
Right.
And then also, how, it's quiet now because I don't think most people are looking at our agenda and seeing cell phone tower, right? And as soon as it's on, and it says cell phone tower,
Yeah.
we're gonna get inundated. So I'm thinking what is, on your end, can you do some preemptive work so that it's not we're taking the brunt of it? Can you perhaps have a town hall meeting with the Pacifica police and fire, for that area to talk about this and why it's important?
Yeah, I'm happy to come down for that. And you guys should not take the brunt of any of that. So I will be here for any meeting where you expect pushback or you expect that we need to be there to explain things so that people understand what we're doing.
Right, and so I'm wondering, can you, I don't know if we would host, can you host it, working with the Pacifica Police Chief to host a
I
town.
can talk to
Yeah.
the police and fire chiefs
Yeah.
and see where they stand on that and being able to organize something like that.
Okay, perfect, and I think like one or two of us
We're-
can pop in, but.
We're here to be your partners in it.
Yeah.
And at your board meeting, if you're voting on something and I will be here for that to help, I should be shielding you from that. You should not be taking any of that. And the bottom line is you have the final decision to decide whether you want to do it or not. That's the bottom line. So where we are tonight is for us to move forward and start working on drawings and getting engineers out, and we just kind of want a consensus or whether you feel like you want to move forward or not. Then if you decide you do, I will bring back a formal written proposal so that, for you guys to consider. We're not going to just go out there and start working, but I would get you a formal proposal, and I would come back in case there's more questions and.
So I think, yeah, like just generally with discussion items, we're kind of looking for board direction. And for what I'm hearing is that maybe prior to any proposal, we want some community outreach.
Yes. Yes, agreed.
And this is at no cost to us.
In fact, we'll make money. I haven't brought that up because it's not significant. But yeah, when they do bring a proposal, there will be a monthly rent for using the space. But it's not gonna, be a windfall for us.
Yeah, we probably won't be building a new school with it, but we,
Okay.
the other thing that we're open to is things like if you need a new scoreboard for one of the gyms or, we're open to some stuff that might be out of the box if.
Right, but I think too, like leaning more into the public safety, especially after what happened this weekend, that people understand it. So what I want is, I don't want people to think we're doing this, like we're not caring about RF exposure or whatever, because we're trying to make money.
Right.
And really leaning into the reason why this is necessary. And so as much education we can do to the public as possible so that there is some buy-in. We're never gonna get everyone bought in, but I would like to get some buy-in from community members who understand, in an emergency, you might not be able to, if everyone's using their cell phone, that this is an area that has very low coverage, you might not be able to get a hold. And then talking about what happens if there is, God forbid, any school emergency at either Oceana or, in one of the Pacifica schools that are in the area, or Good Shepherd, Ingrid B. Lacey. We all know what happened when the school shut down, or we had a lockdown at Terra Nova and everybody was on their cell phone. There were parents that were saying they couldn't get a hold of their student and freaked out, and it was just because everybody was on their phone. So.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you so much, Ms. Van Raphorst, and thank you for being here. The reason why we brought this even to the board, to be clear, is for public safety.
Right.
Right? That's really, and so what I'm hearing is we want to make sure that the community knows that, and that it's very clear. This is not a school district benefit as much as it's a community benefit.
Or a
and
school district
community
ask.
Sorry,
right?
what?
Or a school district ask, like.
Right.
That the Pacifica Police and Fire.
Exactly, that they came to us, and that really this is us. It will make our school safer if, emergency, people can get to our schools, and if
This whole area safer.
Right. So to me, I think that's the big message, is that this is really just to make the community safer. So,
Yeah, and to understand the RFP levels, because that was very informative slide. So just people understand it, so, yeah.
Your presentation here tonight has the compelling story that this particular community needs to be able to see. So I would strongly, you're already hearing from us that this meeting is pretty critical for the success of this project.
Yeah, we're fine, and we want to be plugged in with you guys on it. We want to,
Great.
be your partner in it.
Thank you so much. And one last.
So one last thing, it sounds like the board is in support as long as there's real communication and community input.
That it's not on us.
I mean,
This, there's no cost to you guys in this.
Yeah.
We pay the cost of all of that.
But also the community outreach. I mean, we're going to see it on Nextdoor. You know,
It
what are
is-
they building out there?
It is, so DSA will require a certain amount of that already. So we'll send out letters to the neighbors, and that's part of that process. We're working on a tower for the Forest Service in the Tahoe Basin, and there's letters have already gone out to the neighbors on that one, to just make sure everybody's on board.
I think it's pretty clear at this point, nothing's going to come back to us until all these other things have occurred. That's that's the general thing. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so
Thank
public
you.
outreach first, then, okay.
Thank you.
All right. JUHSD Teamsters Local Union 856 contract negotiations proposal for the 22-23 school years. Ms. Lujan and Ms. Van Rophorst.
Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening are the two sunshine proposals from JUHSD and the Teamsters on the items we would like to negotiate. The district is most interested in discussing compensation, as noted in the sunshine letter. We already have sessions scheduled and are looking forward to conversations and welcome any questions you may have.
Questions or comments before I open the public hearing? All right. I'm going to open the public hearing. Any comments, questions from the public? Come on, come on. All right. Public hearing is closed. Okay, so is there a motion to approve or to adopt the additional proposal?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. 9B1, Bond Oversight Committee appointment, Ms. Van Rophorst.
Thank you. I'm pleased tonight to ask the board to appoint 6 people from our community to serve on the JUHSD Bond Oversight Committee. These 6 volunteers have offered to provide the oversight required by state law, specifically ensuring that bond funds are only spent on projects that were included in voter-approved measures and that the funds are not spent on district operating expenses. So the statute states that the committee should include members from specific constituent groups and that there should be at least 7 members. Currently, we are missing some constituents. We don't have a representative from 3 different areas, the business community, a senior citizens organization representative, or a bona fide taxpayer organization representative. And we are short at least 1 member, as you can see. Ms. Phillips and I will continue to recruit. And in the meantime, I just ask that you approve the list of members that are willing to serve. I am very grateful for their willingness to participate. And in the audience tonight, we have one of the proposed committee members, Mr. Clayton Koo. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Koo.
You're supposed to be retired.
Stay away from school boards.
So I recommend that the 6 people who are willing to serve on this oversight committee be approved tonight.
Comments or questions or a motion?
Motion to approve bond oversight committee appointments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 9B2, Resolution 2223/10, authorizing the sale of GO bonds 2020 election measure J. Ms. Van Rophorst.
Thank you. If it's all right, I'd like to talk about the next 2 items together.
Yeah, why don't we just put that together with also Resolution 2223/11 for measure Z.
So these are resolutions authorizing the issuance of new bond funds. Voters approved Measure J in March of 2020, which was a reauthorization of $28.39 million for district construction projects. And then in November of 2020, the voters approved additional funds in $163 million through Measure Z. So the resolutions before the board today are asking for authorization to get some of these funds for finishing our new adult education and district office campus. This would draw down the remaining $8.39 million that are in Measure J and would mark the first issuance of Measure Z funds in the amount of $42.5 million for a total of $50.89 million to cover the cost of issuance and the remaining construction costs for this project.
Any questions or comments? Or let's just take, we can do one motion. Can we do one motion for both items? Or we should just do probably a separate motion for each one? Let's do a separate motion for
I
each
think
one.
you can, but it's probably cleaner to do.
Yeah, let's just do, all right, we'll do one motion first for Resolution 2223/10, Measure J funds.
Move to approve resolution number 22-23/10.
A second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2223/11.
Move to approve resolution number 22-23/11.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Nailed it for you.
there we go. All right, item 10, consideration of future agenda items. Okay, and then finally, item 11. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I
All-
move to adjourn.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 8:35 PM.
Let's go.
Recording stopped.